My parents, Evander, and I were by the lake having lunch together. I lay on the picnic blanket, looking up at the sky and enjoying the warm sun. My dad, Crystal, was sitting nearby, using his gift to make crystal weapons just for fun. My mom, Celeste, was walking through the water, enjoying the peaceful afternoon. I smiled. I loved moments like this. Then Evander came over and sat beside me. He had a handful of beautiful magical flowers in his hands. "Here," he said, "I thought you would like these." I smiled as I took them. "Thank you." The flowers were beautiful, glowing softly in the sunlight. Then Evander reached over and took my hand. I leaned my head against his shoulder, feeling happy just being beside him. "Let's go play in the water," he said. "Sure," I replied. We ran toward the lake together. By the time we got there, Mom and Dad were already splashing water at each other. It was so funny watching them laugh and try to get each other back. Soon, all of us were playing in the water. We laughed and chased each other around the lake for what felt like hours. It was one of the happiest days I could remember. Little did I know, it would be the last time I would have fun for a while. That night, I lay in my bed, staring at the ceiling. I couldn't sleep. For some reason, I had a strange feeling that something was wrong. I didn't know why, but I felt scared. After a while, I got out of bed and walked to Evander's room. "Hey," I said softly. He looked up. "Can I sleep in here?" "Sure," he said. He got out of bed and grabbed an extra pillow for me. I climbed in beside him, and he wrapped an arm around me, making me feel safe. "I love you," I whispered. "I love you too," he replied. A few minutes later, he fell asleep. Soon, I did too. That night, I dreamed of pies and butterflies. A few weeks later, a messenger arrived at our house. My father opened the door, and the moment he saw the messenger's face, he knew something was wrong. "What happened?" Dad asked. The messenger took a deep breath. "War has started again between the two kingdoms." My heart sank. The messenger continued, "And the Princess of Ravenhollow requests that all of you come to the castle." "Princess?" Mom repeated in shock. "Wait," I said, "there's a princess?" Everyone looked just as confused as I felt. We had no idea Ravenhollow even had a princess. "And she requested all of us?" Evander asked. The messenger nodded. "Yes, including her son." "Her son?" Mom said, even more confused. Before anyone could ask more questions, Evander spoke. "We should just go." I sighed. "Fine," Dad said. We got ready and traveled to the castle wearing our best clothes. When we arrived at Dreadspire, we were led inside. The king and queen explained why they had called us there. The Princess of Ravenhollow was preparing for the war, and she had been given the responsibility of choosing a general to help lead and govern the armies. I felt a small spark of excitement. Whoever she chose would have an important role in protecting Ravenhollow. I couldn't wait to see who it would be. The entire kingdom seemed to hold its breath as everyone waited for the princess to appear. We joined the crowd lining the streets, watching as a long red carpet stretched from the castle doors. The doors slowly opened. King Rowan and Queen Gabriella stepped outside first. The crowd erupted into cheers. People threw flowers onto the carpet and held out small gifts as the royal couple smiled and waved. Then, the princess appeared. "Wow," I whispered. "She's so pretty." She wore a beautiful dark blue dress that shimmered in the sunlight. A silver crown rested on her head, and she walked with such confidence that it was impossible to look away. The crowd cheered even louder. I smiled as I watched her wave to everyone. Then I noticed Evander staring in complete silence. "What's wrong, babe?" I asked, gently kissing his cheek. He didn't take his eyes off the princess. "That's my mom." I blinked. "What?" "Talia." I looked back at the princess. It really was her. I stared in shock. "Evander. That's amazing." He lowered his head. "I don't think so." I frowned. "Why not?" "Because," he said quietly, "she won't have time for me anymore." My heart broke a little. I reached over and took his hand. "That's not true." I smiled at him. "She loves you, and no matter how busy she gets, she'll always make time for you." He looked at me for a long moment. Then a small smile spread across his face. "I guess you're right." I smiled back. Then we shared a gentle kiss as the cheers of the crowd echoed all around us. I watched as my mom walked up the castle steps and took her place beside her real parents. I felt happy for her. But at the same time, I felt a little sad. Zia gently took my hand. I looked over at her. She smiled at me. She looked so beautiful. My mom stepped up to the podium and looked out over the crowd. A smile spread across her face before she began speaking. I am so grateful to be here today, she said. I have a lot of emotions right now, but I want the people of Ravenhollow to know this. No matter how much war or heartbreak we face, we will stand together. The crowd cheered. I also want to thank everyone who has been part of my life. She paused. And most of all, I want to thank my son, Evander, for simply being Evander. The crowd laughed softly. I couldn't help smiling. Then she continued. As many of you know, I was asked to choose a general to lead our armies. I wanted to choose one person. But I couldn't. There are two people I trust with my whole heart. So, I chose them both. The crowd fell silent. Everyone waited to hear the first name. The first person is. She smiled. Evander Dreamspire. For a moment, I couldn't believe what I'd heard. Me? People around me began clapping as I slowly walked toward the podium. When I reached her, she pulled me into a hug. I hugged her back. Then she turned back to the crowd. The second general has more experience in battle. His name is Draven Lucas Drex. Draven walked onto the stage, looking completely surprised. When my mom hugged him, his face turned bright red. I smiled to myself. It looked like Talia had an admirer. After the ceremony, the king invited all of us to stay for dinner. I was so happy. For the first time in a long while, it felt like everyone was together. During dinner, we talked about the war. That part wasn't nearly as cheerful. When the meal was over, King Rowan and Queen Gabriella insisted that we stay the night at the castle. Crystal and Celeste were given their own guest room. Zia and I were given one of our own. I sat quietly on the edge of the bed. A few moments later, Zia came over and sat beside me. Hey, she said softly. What's wrong? I looked down at my hands. It's just, I'm really happy, but I'm sad too. She smiled. Babe, it's okay, our lives are changing. She gently squeezed my hand. And I think they're changing for the better. I smiled. I know. She leaned over and kissed me. I smiled into the kiss before kissing her back. When we pulled away, she rested her hand against my cheek. I want you to know something. What? I asked. It's an honor to be with someone who's been chosen as a general. She smiled warmly. And it's pretty amazing that your mom is royalty. I laughed quietly. I know. I placed my hand over hers. She smiled again. Then she leaned in and kissed me once more. Everything felt okay. I was getting ready for bed, but my mind wouldn't slow down. There was so much to think about. War, becoming a general, the responsibility that came with it. For some reason, I had a strange feeling in my gut that something was about to happen. Just to be safe, I kept my armor on and my sword close by. I was so deep in thought that I didn't hear someone enter my room. A knife suddenly flew past my head and buried itself in the wall. I jumped. What the? Talia stood in the doorway with a small grin on her face. How did you get in? I asked. I opened the door, she replied. Didn't you hear me knocking? I rubbed the back of my neck. No. She quietly closed the door behind her. Is there something you need me to do? I asked. Well, yes and no. I noticed she was still wearing her armor. She looked tired. I need you to train Evander. I nodded. For his role as a general? Yes, I can do that. She smiled. Thank you. Is that all? I asked. She hesitated. No. She walked a little closer. My heart skipped a beat. I'll do anything for you, I said. She raised an eyebrow. Really? Of course. You're the princess. I smiled nervously. And I still like you. A faint blush spread across her cheeks. She looked down before speaking. I've spent so much of my life fighting. She let out a quiet sigh. I just want to know what it's like to be loved. She looked back up at me. The kind of romantic love. I felt my own face grow warm. I gently smiled. If you'll let me, I'd like to show you. A faint blush spread across her cheeks. I sat down on the edge of my bed. A moment later, Talia sat beside me. For a few seconds, neither of us said anything. Then she looked at me. Can I hug you? She asked quietly. Of course. She wrapped her arms around me, and I hugged her back. For a moment, she buried her face against my neck. Everything felt peaceful. Then, a loud horn echoed through the castle. The warning horn. Danger. Talia jumped to her feet. We rushed outside. The entire kingdom had already gathered. What's that? Evander asked, pointing toward the distant hills. Everyone turned. At the top of the hill stood enormous Bekon beasts. Perched on their backs were demons from the underworld, cloaked in dark armor and surrounded by black magic. They had come from the underworld. They're attacking. Someone shouted. We have to protect the villagers. I yelled. Without another thought, we charged into battle. Gifted warriors rushed forward. The Ravenhollow army met the enemy head-on. Magic lit up the battlefield. But there were too many demons. Too many beasts. I knew what I had to do. My father had warned me never to use this part of my gift. He said it would push my body too far. He said it could cause a seizure. But there wasn't another choice. I closed my eyes. Lightning surged through my body. The sky grew darker, streaked with flashes of brilliant blue. Electricity wrapped around me until my entire body glowed. I glanced across the battlefield. Zia and her mother, Celeste, transformed into blazing, winged figures of living fire as they soared into the sky. I stared in amazement. If they can do it, so can I. I rose into the air. Below me, Talia looked up. Our eyes met for just a moment. Then I lifted my hands toward the sky. Lightning crashed down from the clouds, striking the demons and the Bekon beasts. It was working. I could feel the power flowing through every part of my body. It was more than I had ever controlled before. Everything around me began to blur. The last thing I remembered was the world fading into darkness. Then I blacked out.